Everybody, I am excited today to be here live on LinkedIn with you. And later on, you'll see this over on Facebook and on YouTube and a couple of other places as well. But I am bringing you the guests of this month's Bold Business Podcast. It is Kris Ward, it is Eric Brotman, and it is Charles Rose. And I have to tell you that each of the conversations that I had with these individuals about productive leadership, about what it means to grow business today and really understand some of the nuances to face change. I can't say the word riveting, even though it was to me, because it's just going to show how geeky I was, people. So how much I enjoy this. So I want to have each of them introduce themselves to you really quickly, and we are going to get on and get into their heads a little bit more. Kris, how about if you start?
Okay. All right. So I'm Kris Ward. My platform is Win the Hour, Win the Day. And really fundamentally, what I believe in is that your business should support your life and not consume it. And I guess what my clients say about me is I make ambitions come alive.
Charles.
Yes, my name's Charles Rose, and I'm first an entrepreneur. Jess and I actually worked together back in the day, and now I do executive coaching, and that's where I'm at.
Eric.
Last but not least, I'm Eric Brotman. I'm the CEO of BFG Financial Advisors in Maryland. Also run a consulting practice for financial advisors. And my recent book is called Don't Retire, Graduate. And it's about how retirement should not be a retreat or surrender. It should be an advancement to the next stage of life.
I'm telling you, okay, we have a powerhouse here. And what I noticed in everybody's self-introductions is that we all serve others. And in that serving of others, I'm guessing is where we get a lot of learning and a lot of inspiration and a lot of curiosity and questions that we want to keep moving forward on and keep moving forward on. And I'm thinking about this concept of, what is effective management? What is effective leadership? What does effective mean at all? Especially these days when we face things like decision fatigue, when we face things like being on our computer more and more and more and more than we have. Well, I don't know about everybody here, but it is for me. I tripled my time on the computer, and I'm actually tired at the end of the day just from being there. All of the decisions we face, all of the other things that have to figure out that we have to decide on going forward. And so, I'm thinking about this concept of effective, and part of that is accountability. And so in this, I'm going to just jump right to the question, because ultimately, community, you are going to have the option to answer this in a poll, to share your stories, to have the ability to weigh in with your tips and expertise, which will be featured in an article by Red Direction later this month. So make sure that you are stopping by, answering the question so that we have some data from you, and sharing your tips so that we can quote you and include your experiences in what we're doing in this learning experience and this learning, should we call it an experiment together? So this question that we have this month around effective leadership is, and I put it someplace and I don't have it open now. Let me go get it. It was just a tease to let you think about what else might be coming your way. And the question is, when it comes to effective management, what are the two most important items to put your attention on first? And I'm going to open the floor. Instead of calling on you, I'm just going to let you see. How's that going to
go? Chivalry's not dead. It's badly wounded. But Kris, you want to go first?
I'm a big girl. I can dive in when I want to, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
No problem. You know what? It's going to sound understated and anticlimactic, but I would first tell you the number one thing you want to be doing is leading by example. But that example, you really want to take a look at that example. So I'm all about team building. And again, that your business should support your life, not consume it. So, I believe your team should be supervising you not supervising it, because too many people have this, here's my job, and then here's my management hat. And that's really not an effective long game. So I always talk about, how effective are you at leaning into what your zone of genius is and leveraging your time so that the people working, in your team can get better and better at doing that for themselves. So not just that you become efficient, you have these people supporting you, but that your supports become more and more efficient. And then it just, this huge ripple effect. So a big part of that is leading by example, where is when there's some hierarchy, you know, even in the smallest of companies, sometimes as entrepreneurs, when you do start your team and what I call creating your win team, so you can get to what is next, what is next, what is next, is to understand that you can be an interruption in their work, right? So it's really about, I talk a lot about productivity and time management and team building and how you map out your time using what I call your time bank account, which is your calendar. But leading by example is really understated, and it's fundamentally it's what fractures efficiency on any level.
Just that. Thank you, Kris. All right. I'll repeat the question again. You're going to just jump in, Eric?
I'll jump in second,
Okay,
that's
go.
all right. In terms of the two most critical items for attention and management, it boils down very simply to people and technology, and definitely in that order. And I would say from a standpoint of people, it's about having the right folks on the bus and having them in the right seats on the bus, and then getting out of their way and letting them do great work. So I think that involves culture. I think it involves diversity in every different way in terms of backgrounds and skill sets. And I think it's important to let people be at their best. You know, we grew up in a world where in school, we were always taught to work on the things we were weakest at. And today, I think people are playing to their strengths instead of to their weaknesses. Why get better at the thing you can't stand, whereas you could really own the thing you're best at? So people, very simple, it's have folks who are different than you are, who like to do things that you don't like to do, and vice versa, and get out of their way. From a technology standpoint, it's so pervasive in our society, but Kris mentioned efficiencies, and in order to be effective, I think first you have to be productive and efficient, and that means having the right tools. And it doesn't necessarily mean having the best tools or the most expensive tools or the fanciest tools. It's just the ones that your people need in order to do their jobs as effectively and efficiently as possible.
Thank you, Eric.
Sure.
All right, Charles, jump right in.
All right. So in answering your question, you said what is the most effective way of managing? And so I'm a big words guy, so I looked up effective, and it's like successful in producing a desired or intended result. And so to me, the first thing you have to do is be clear on what is that. The first piece is clarity. So it's have everybody be really clear on what is the intended result. So if you're clear on your purpose as an organization, as an individual, then you can be so much more productive if you're clear. So that's the first piece. The second, in terms of management, is listening, because ultimately it's a relationship. And so as a manager, you want to be actively listening to your staff and what's going on, and read their micro expressions and hear what's going on, beneath the surface, and what do they actually need to remove the blockers to be effective. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, 3 people, 3 industries, 3 very different yet very complementary. And if I wanted to, I could weave them all together into a single answer, but I'm not going to do that, because you need all 6 of these things to weave into the answer that works best for you. So I have a follow-up kind of thing. I have to ask the 3 of you, when did you last employ one of the things that you shared? And was it that you can consciously remember, and the reason that you consciously drew it up to go forward? So here we are. We're practicing what we preach here, is what this example is. Are you ready? Charles, let's go backwards. We'll do Charles, Eric, and then Kris. How about that?
Well, I mean, I do that with clients on a daily basis, getting clear with them and supporting them and having clarity about a particular relationship. And it's usually the relationship with their company. So what's their purpose in being there? What do they want to give to the relationship? What do they want to receive from the relationship? What are their goals? And then, am I actively listening to them? And then in return, are they actively listening to their staff? So.
Okay.
Jess, you asked when we last employed this strategy, and for me, it was about 78 minutes ago. We had our quarterly SWAT meeting this morning, and so our client relations and marketing and business development teams all come together. All of our teams do this, but that's the team for which I'm most actively engaged. And we came together this morning and looked at our strengths and our weaknesses and our opportunities and our threats, as we do every quarter. And we determined, number one, some technology adjustments that we want to make to workflows and for efficiencies. And number two, we talked about a process that's happening literally an hour and a half from now. And my recognition that someone on that call is going to be so much better at it than I am, that I can get out of her way and let her do what she's great at. So I think I used both of these in the last 2 hours.
All right, Kris, what's up? How about you?
Yeah, I'm all about it all day long. I really am, not just with myself. We do coaching clients in 90-day cycles, and we're always looking at that. Like whenever there's anything like anything you do or any step that's missed or anything that's coming up, you're always looking at, okay, we call it a toolkit, a little bit more dynamic than your processes and stuff, procedures and policies. So, understanding how, when you look at that, like, okay, how can we make this more efficient in less steps? Or who had a question here, then that should have been in the toolkit. Businesses are not run in memory. So we're always looking at that, so that, I always forget that saying, but the whole tides rise all ships. There you go. I'll have to get a tattoo or something to remember that. But the whole point is, when we're all doing that, when we're all taking a look at it and we're all rising up and leaning into our efficiency, it just becomes really a secondary thing. Leadership becomes more of like a team effort versus leadership. So that's really the backbone of every discussion that we have.
Mm-hmm.
I think a tattoo might be a little over the top. I mean, maybe whatever happened to the string around a finger, not a tattoo.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I know, my eyes got really wide. I was like, well, that's one way to remember.
Yeah.
If I tattooed myself for everything I needed to remember, you wouldn't even see me. I would just be a mess. So
yeah,
there's
tune in
a
next
whole
week.
lot of commitment in that.
Tune in next week to see if I got the tattoo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. I tell you what. Oh, I'm thinking about you, community. You're watching, you're listening, you're going to be reading all throughout this month around this topic. And I am pleased to have Kris Ward, Eric Brotman, and Charles Rose with me to discuss this, to bring their hands-on experience, to bring the things that they've learned, to bring the practices that they have that they can share with us. And now it's your turn. It is your turn to make sure you're looking for our survey with this question that will be shared amongst. And your question is slightly different because it's a wider scope, which is, when it comes to effective management, which of the following combinations is the most important? And then taking the three answers, what Kris and Eric and Charles shared with you today, combined with whatever you think that combination is for yourself, share. Be part of this conversation. Join in. I want to hear from you. These three want to hear from you. The rest of the community wants to hear from you about your experience, about a tip. And by the way, it could be a win, but it doesn't always have to be a win. When you listen to me long enough, we get all kinds of laughter around all the crazy stuff that has happened over the course of time. And in fact, I'm going to totally call out Eric, because those of you who are supporter listeners, you're going to hear him say, do you have enough time? Because we could talk for a week about all the mistakes I made. And I think he and I might have to do that and just record it to see, does it really take a week for him? And how long would it take if he did the same thing and asked me that question? Because I will tell you, all of us here, including Kris and Charles, we've all made mistakes and we learn from those the most. That's how we get moving toward effectiveness. To Charles's point about defining effective, that's how we move toward success and get that achievement. So before we go, Kris, Eric, and Charles, do you have any last words for this period of time only? Not forever, but just this period of time.
I do. I'll jump in. Okay.
All right.
Here's my big show and tell, and I think it's so hugely important. When we don't talk about effective leadership or running your team or running your business, and you're trapped in the admin stuff and you're just caught up in that. What I talk to people all the time and see these red jelly beans, these are your ambitions, your big things. You want to get to the next thing and the next thing. You know, we all have them. It's not a job. You know, we want to get bigger and bigger impact on our audience, right? So they get buried in there week to week when really you should be able to, at any point, clearly move forward with them. But this is what people want, but this is the reality and what they're living in, right? And so that comes from having, you know, not having the leadership that you want or the productivity or effectiveness. So you should be able to clearly, concisely move forward with all your ambitions, make them come alive. But this is the reality where people are living.
Kris, that's awesome.
That's
Thank you, sir.
First of all, you just made me incredibly hungry, and now I don't care what color they are, but I would eat half the jar. Secondly, I now feel like I need a visual, and so over my shoulder, I don't know if you can see this, but I keep an Inukshuk. If you're familiar with the Inukshuk, I got this up in Churchill, Manitoba. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And it is a symbol of togetherness. And so I believe that working together, that is a cornerstone of everything that we're doing, and making sure that our team really is pulling in the same direction, and we're transparent about our wins, we're understanding about our losses. You know, Jess said that we could talk for weeks about the mistakes we've made. It's really, you know, you've heard I have tattooed on me, Kris, somewhere, that it's not about not getting knocked down, it's about getting back up. When it comes to mistakes, it's okay to make a mistake. You've got to try not to make it twice. So I tell people, whoever will listen, I will try not to make the same mistake twice, but I reserve the right to make all new mistakes and make them.
Yes. I pride myself on my creativity. Oh, I can come up with a new one.
A new catastrophic mistake is always on the horizon, and I embrace it because I only have to make it once.
Well, if you like that, I'll show you one more, and I promise I'll stop. What I tell people all the time here is this.
Okay, I'm really glad I didn't have tea in my mouth.
I speak for entrepreneurs, and when you're an entrepreneur, you look around, you think, oh, how are they getting all that stuff done? Or how, you know, sometimes you have professional jealousy, or what's happening? And what I tell you is they're not smarter than you. They don't have any more ideas than you. All they're doing is what I call YME. You're missing execution. So you have the ideas, you're a smart cookie. It's just the execution you're missing. And that, again, you know, leadership for yourself and your team, you can just execute at a higher and higher level. So yeah, hats off to you.
This is like show and tell.
Oh my God.
I know.
Charles, no pressure at all.
At all. I know. Wow. Yes, you didn't tell us about the visual aid preparation. Right, so,
I am unprepared as well, Charles. It is totally okay. I was like, well, what could I grab off of my desk? And I really
I'm
don't.
there. I'm fully there. Like most companies, without doing their clarity work, they're like this. They're solid. They can't see. But once you've done your work and you understand your purpose and what's underneath and you got your goals, then it's like water and it's clear and you can see where you're going. It's the best I got.
Okay, now you understand why I brought these three together
Clearly,
to
for the
have
visual aid.
interviews with, to learn from them, because all of them rise to the occasion. And they have surpassed everything I could have thought. And I thought my day was already going great. It is not. We are at a new level, and the rest of the day better watch out. So, I want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you around. Look for all of the other wonderful, good stuff you're going to see from us. And we'll be tagging Kris and Charles and Eric in our posts so that you may connect with them as well.